Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Esports Awards Origins podcast. I'm your host, Quickshot, and it is a very special honor today to be joined by someone who I do call a friend, somebody we've known for many years, but I don't actually know your origins. Hans Jagnow, how are you? How are you doing today?
Very good, very good. A little bit exhausted, to be honest. We're in week 7 of the Esports World Cup. And so this was a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of amazing tournaments, obviously, but also that comes with a lot of work. Hence, not too much sleep.
Yeah, you can catch up on that in September. That's pretty much my plan as well. So,
I'm not sure about this. Please speak to management.
Okay. Well, look, let's dial it back a little bit because this is called Origins. What we do like to do is spend the first couple of minutes just talking about your introduction to gaming, introduction to esports. How old were you? What game was it? And what brought you to this industry?
How old was I? What game? It's a really long time ago.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of my background. And I think that is important to also understand the technologies that we were exposed to, etc. Right? I'm from a small village right outside of Berlin in the US. You would say suburbs. In Germany is just a village.
Yep.
And I was born on the east side of Germany, basically in a country that doesn't exist anymore. I have a birth certificate from that country.
Wow.
It's always interesting to think about like those 3 years, right? Obviously, didn't spend much time and not conscious time in that country, but like those.
Your life is impacted, especially because of your parents and things, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And also growing up in that region that then also needed to develop over a couple of years to catch up with the west of Germany.
Yeah.
And my stepfather at the time, he worked in a university, and so one day he brought back this big gray box that you put on your desk, and then you had a bigger gray, much more gray box.
CRT, yes.
Monitor on top of it, right? It was, I think, a 286 processor. And the first game that I consciously remember, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, was Sleepwalker.
Okay.
Sleepwalker is a platformer where you're playing a dog that has an owner that sleepwalks, and so he basically sleepwalks out of his apartment, out on through the window into like the nighttime city, and you need to remove all the obstacles and kick him over any dangerous obstacles on
That's
the road,
amazing.
etc. Right? To make sure that he reaches his home in a safe way. And that was actually the first game I can remember on, but then the floodgates were open and my 90s were very much defined by growing up and playing PC games.
Yeah, me too.
And I had a couple of friends that played consoles, but for me, PC is more than a gaming device, right? I love to write. I love to code a little bit, and so it became that universal tool for me to explore a different world where I was away from like the narrow-minded village life and like the other kids, etc.
Yep.
And very much bound to that. But yeah, that's the very first step into gaming.
I mean, that's amazing. And look, I can relate. I was born into apartheid in South Africa. I was 7 years old when it stopped. So I'm old enough to remember, but not fully grasp, right? It has a lasting impact on, where you grow and what you do. Let's talk about esports. Mm-hmm. When did you get involved? Do you love esports?
It's okay. It's okay. No, absolutely I do. And I'll try to kind of like get the timeline right.
Okay.
Right. There's something I remember in 2000, and it's pretty interesting because it's very German. So we had this convention in Berlin that was focusing on the newest technological developments. It was like a big convention, consumer convention. Everyone could go there. And they had like a little room on the side, like a little meeting room. And there were people playing. I think it was the first time that standalone version of Counter-Strike was released. But since it's Germany, there was an age limit to that event. And so my grandma needed to come with me as my legal guardian. And so I
That's
was
incredible.
12 years old, and my grandpa needed to introduce me formally to Counter-Strike. I played it before. I played it since it was a mod for
Yes.
Half-Life. It was
Like
like
the standalone you got to experience.
yes, yeah. Well, the first
There we go.
tournament, right? The
Exactly.
first
Yeah.
tournament. I'm not sure who organized it back then, and I'm pretty sure that behind us, maybe the person that organized it still is running around and is doing the esports thing.
You know the scary thing is that little subtle hint. I could probably name 4 or 5 people that are running back there that it could be.
Yes.
We're in a very special place right now.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why it has also a special place in my heart, right?
Yeah.
It was the first time where I saw like, hey, I want to be up there on like this mini stage.
Yeah.
It was about Deutsche Mark back then, which was the currency that we had before the euro. And it was a very small price pool, I think 50.
Listen, the fact you were getting Deutsche Mark, it was keyboards and mice when I was doing those tournaments. So there wasn't even cash.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't even cash.
Okay.
I don't know. It was very, very small amounts, right? I wanted to be up there, and the tragic story of the life is that I never went up there. So I never became a professional player, never became someone who was extremely good at those games, but I developed kind of like a sense for bringing together people on playing, and so I organized the first LAN parties in my neighborhood, right, and in my village, and then in Berlin, and brought together a couple of people on a regular basis. And I feel this sense of bringing people together is what is actually for me the core of esports, and why I'm so drawn to it, right? And I've worked in other industries like music, festivals and concerts, right? And it's always the same thing. You meet a lot of new friends, you meet a lot of new happy faces.
Yeah.
And you create value for them. You create value in their life, and even if it's a smile.
Yeah, I love the fact that you talk about hosting LAN parties, creating events. It immediately in my head makes a bunch of Lego pieces fall into place about the job that you do and the respect that I have for you for the job that you do. Before we talk about EWC this year and then NGSC, give me a 30-second summary of each job that led you to this point now.
Well, actually, all the jobs led me to this.
Okay. What's the timeline? I'll tell you mine, right? So mine is university, national sales rep at a brick and mortar retailer, community manager for an online web game, community manager at Freaks for You in Spandau, and then Riot Games. Yeah. And that led me there. So I have a short one, I'm lucky, but what's your timeline?
All right. So it actually starts before university.
Okay.
I worked in events, and I had a small kind of like student marketing agency that I built. So then I went into university. I made it a little bit bigger. I also had my event business. So I did bigger festivals, did security planning for quite some events. And I think the biggest one that I had was around 120,000 people.
Wow.
And this kind of like followed me over 9 years. But what I did in the meantime, university, I studied law. I went to the United States, had an internship there in Washington, D.C., and I always was interested in the intersection of regulation and policy making and law with digital, both entertainment as well as technologies, right? And so during my studies, I worked in different law firms. Some of the biggest ones, Freshfields, if that rings a bell, or K&L Gates, which is
my life is on the monitor, so
the law firm of the father of Bill Gates.
Wow. Okay.
And so in their Berlin offices, right, they're big international law firms. As a student employee, and so I managed the library, etc. But then also moved over from there and being hired into politics. I think there it gets interesting. For 8 years, I worked on the in the parliament of the state of Berlin. So Germany is a federal state, right? The state of Berlin is one of those, and they have a parliament. And I was an advisor to several members of that parliament on digital policies. And what I identified there was a gap of representation for gaming. Gaming was not really on the top of the mind of the parliamentary members, right? It was not on the top of the mind of policymakers, and let alone esports. So gaming, they had a connection to, and was maybe back then probably Candy Crush and things like that, right? Something that was in their lives or they saw with their kids. But esports was very, very far away from them. And so I started to work and advise in that connection, and I saw that gap. And so I brought together a couple of people to have something, again, very, very formally German, to come together and build a club, like a traditional sports club, but focusing on esports, the Berlin Esports Club. And then we got together with other clubs all over Germany, and we founded the German Esports Federation. So basically a national representation of the interests of players, the interest of grassroots esports, but also ESL was one of our first members, of our founding members. And this is where I met Ralf Reichert, who is now my boss.
Yeah.
And so moving on from there, 3 years, I was elected president of the German Esports Federation. I also worked on a European format called the European Esports Federation, or Esports Europe. And then Ralf asked me, hey, after all these years, do you actually want to earn money with that? Right? And he was kind enough to have a position open that he thought was actually perfect for me, which is a management position in between a tournament organizer, at this time ESL, and 15 of the most significant Counter-Strike teams in Counter-Strike club, right? And this is where kind of like my life changed from having an interest in esports but working in another space to actually being in a business in esports.
There's two topics I want to talk about as far as now, let's say recency. I could spend hours talking to you about your history and work, but that is an incredible journey, and there's a lot that I didn't know myself. Let's talk about Esports World Cup and your first job, because I'm just gonna directly say you had two. There's probably many more hats, don't get me wrong. But explain to our viewers and everybody who's listening to this, what is your role in relation to the players, and what is your responsibility there too?
So in 2023, I was asked to support a project. Didn't know what it was. I got traveled to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. There was a conference back then, Next World Forum, and we sat down and we talked about the Esports World Cup. And there was a need for someone who brings together all the clubs in support and in supporting them, as well as manages the relationship with all the attendees, including the wider esports players, right? And in the Esports World Cup, we have about 2,500 players and staff coming together. And that is something where I felt I can add value, right? I knew from my position before at ESL how to build a relationship with the club owners, with the club managers. And I also spoke a lot because we did a format that was basically a representation of professional Counter-Strike players within a specific business context. I also spoke with the players back then, and so I felt I had a little bit to add and contribute to this project when it comes to manage the relationship with them, making sure they have the best experience, as well as when it comes to the clubs, making sure that we are building something together with them, right? And
If I may, I would like to just pause very briefly and just commend you and compliment you on the work. I had the pleasure of being here for 8 weeks last year. I've been here for the entire run this year. And I have personal relationships with teams and players. And I'm actually respectfully jealous of how the players are treated, because it's correct. They're the stars. They're the stars. We're the staff. But seriously, it's an incredible undertaking, a huge undertaking, no less. But I think your unique experience across every single field has set you up incredibly well. So I just want to say congratulations, because
Thank you so much.
It's amazing to see, and it's great to hear and to be validated by hearing the players talking about those things. We've only got a few minutes left. I want to respect your time.
Sure.
I know for a fact that you've had a hand in building this incredible conference, setting this up, on top of additional responsibilities. Can you tell me about the New Global Sport Conference?
Yeah, so this is actually the third time I am heading and leading the New Global Sport Conference. We built this format as a platform for the Esports World Cup business relationships, right? And I think we grew it over the last 2.5 years into something that filled actually a void within the esports industry, but also within the games industry and sports. Because after COVID, it was really hard for everyone to get together. Most of the industry formats just died, unfortunately, right? Looking back to 2018, 2019, there were conferences going on all over the world, but suddenly that didn't really make it into the post-COVID phase of esports, right?
Yeah.
So everyone was longing for a place to connect, and we wanted to build this, and this is something that I took on over the last couple of years. And this is the third edition. We have 1,500 attendees here from all the different industries, right? Gaming, sports, and esports, but also entertainment, technology, and investment. And so for me, this is really about building a platform that creates more value for everyone than it might actually get back, right? This is something where everyone can come and explore their partnerships, their new initiatives. We had significant announcements all over the place today, not only one, but multiple really groundbreaking announcements on stage, right? And it's only the first day, like not even the end of the first day, right? So who knows what comes next?
Well, I think you might know, because I think you exactly.
I think I'm well aware, but it's something that I'm incredibly passionate about, right? And it comes actually back to where we began our conversation, right? It's about bringing together people.
Correct.
And it's about this community, and it's a little bit different community, right? If you're looking at the pro player.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You're understanding that one.
But it is a community after all, and it works with how you should treat and look after a community, right? You make sure they are like a family. They're coming together at the table, they're having good meals, they're having good conversations, and they're contributing to each other's lives. This is what a good family looks like, and this is also what a good industry looks like.
I mean, it's fantastic. We've got less than a minute to go, so quick fire questions now to round this one out. What are you most proud of about this year's NGSC?
I think the studio stage, the studio stage that we're sitting in right now has produced so much content, interesting conversations. People that would never meet are suddenly sitting next to each other. And talking.
Myself included. I've met a lot of people, so thank you. What is your favorite memory from the tournaments of EWC this year?
Favorite memory of the tournaments? That is hard because we're in such a whirlwind. I would say first of all, I answer a question with a different answer.
Okay, fair.
My favorite moment was seeing the players of EWC in the opening ceremony and making the opening ceremony.
I 100% agree. Looking up at Falcons, what a shot. Like, honestly, that was incredible.
Yep.
Very, very last question, and then I'm going to ask you to get back to work, basically, and look after your family.
Thank you so much.
How much do you appreciate me for putting you in a Post Malone shoot?
Absolutely. That was incredible. And also,
By the way, he was incredibly nervous. So yeah.
I was nervous because no one briefed me. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That was super cool. And I think everyone around was a little bit jealous. But Post was such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of fun. Yeah.
We had a lot of fun. He was such an interested guy. And you remember when he went up on stage and said, "Thank you. I just spoke to the organizers of this event, and I understand that the players here have a really big task ahead of them." Something like in that line. I really feel he listened. He understood what we were saying, right? This is really authentic. He is a gamer through and through. So this was just an incredible moment. Thank you so much for making it happen.
Listen, I know. I mean, I threw you in there. It was a bit dramatic. Hans, thank you so much for taking the time. Good luck with the rest of the conference. I know it's going to be long. And one day you'll be allowed to sleep, but it's not today. See you guys later.
Thank you.